Fight the Blight, a year-long investigation from WLBT. 3 on your side.
Well, some Jackson residents wanting a house look at a vacant and overgrown property and see themselves making it a home. They decided to buy a property on Delaware Avenue, which is just south of West Capitol Street in West Jackson. That's where we find 3 on your side's Rosalind Anderson live with tonight's edition of Fight the Blight. Rosalind?
One Jackson couple turned to a state tax forfeited structure to renovate and to become property owners, taxpayers.
This house has been abandoned since, I believe, 2010.
We first met Mildred Dover and her husband Dennis Clay in March when they had their eyes on this state tax forfeited house on Capitol Street to rehab and occupy. Plans changed when they were outbid. They got another chance weeks later and purchased this vacant home just 2 blocks away on Delaware Avenue.
We can't afford a home on the regular real estate market. Number 2, the communities that have these abandoned properties need them to be either renovated or demolished. And this house, we believe, could be saved.
This isn't too bad in here, actually.
Whoa. They began work themselves about 3 weeks ago, gutting what couldn't be salvaged. State law requires a licensed and bonded contractor for electrical and plumbing. The 3-bedroom, 2-bath home costs just over $4,700.
We're going to be paying taxes a little over $1,200 a year.
According to the Secretary of State's office, there are 1,740 tax forfeited properties available for purchase in Jackson.
There you go.
The South Jackson renter has invested about $15,000 in repairs. Unfortunately, over the past few weeks, she says she's lost about $2,500 in materials, from tools to a ladder, due to break-ins. But she isn't discouraged. Dover is working toward moving in while renovating. In West Jackson, Rosalind Anderson, 3 on your side.